Hey, what's going on? Welcome back to another THORChain weekly news recap. In this one, the big story obviously is the THORChain. How are they going to handle the hacked funds from Bybit? So it's likely that you saw that news. I mean, it's all over crypto. It's not just, it's the biggest hack, I guess, in crypto history. Something like this, 1.5 or 1.4 billion dollars in ETH that's getting moved around all over the place. And somehow, well, it's not really somehow, but THORChain seems to be caught in the spotlight of this. So we're going to be talking about that. Also got some Voltisig news, some other ecosystem stuff, a couple Rujira network stuff, and really, I'm hoping that I can get that anybody watching this can chat through some of this stuff with me here. I'm curious your guys' thoughts on what you think THORChain should do when it comes to censoring or not to censor. I'm presenting the news. I'm going to try to stay pretty neutral on my opinion about that, but I still want to cover the news in case you're busy and you just maybe didn't see it. So the first thing, with all that happening, right? I already set the stage for this. Bybit had a hack, and actually, I should maybe pull up THORChain.net here. So Bybit had a hack. They signed, Lazarus put a transaction. They compromised a dev machine, and they got a transaction to go through that initially that basically wiped out the whole wallet. And so the issue has become to look at all this volume. It seems that they're mostly using THORChain to swap ETH into, I'm not exactly sure. I think some of the stuff I'm saying is ETH into Bitcoin. And what do they plan to do with that? I'm not entirely sure. And I mean, I've on my own personal accounts have been quiet about this, right? It's obviously if you talk about this kind of volume in the context, people are always going to point that out. So it's kind of one of those things. And nobody, I think it's worth pointing out that I don't think anybody in the community wants bad people to be developing nuclear weapons. No one wants that to happen. No one's saying in the camp of don't censor is saying yes, we're pro criminal for not censoring. And if you do censor, then it's not fair to call those people, wanting some authoritarian thing where they just want to live in like a centralized world where they want ultimate safety and they want the government to tell you what addresses. Both of those extremes are not the case. There's like a thing in the middle. And I think it all has to come down to risk tolerance of the participants. So I guess from my point of view, I don't run any nodes. So I don't know what it would be like. I don't know the risk. The RuneTard put out a tweet and he was saying it's past his personal risk level of where he's okay with processing transactions. He needs a solution. So there's different solutions, I guess, that you can have here. And one we're going to talk about. But that's basically where no one wants anybody to go to jail for this. So there's kind of different ways to look at it. So we had this news from Pluto, and I think this is right. I think the lead dev for 9 Realms, moving on from THORChain. Validators, developers, member community, he's no longer going to be contributing. He's still going to be building, I guess. I saw this. Committed to the vision of building secure, liquid, and seamless cross-chain asset rails. Thanks for your support. Stay tuned. So I don't know where he's necessarily going to go or anything like that. But obviously, when the lead dev for THORChain or for 9 Realms leaves, that's not a good sign to a lot of people. And I know that Pluto was he made a tweet about he's building this for mass adoption, not for 1% of anarchists. I think he said mouth breathing anarchists or something like this, right? The people that don't want to censor and they want freedom of transactions is who I believe he was referring to there. And he seemed to be more concerned with the integrations, because THORChain without a trust wallet, without any of the integrations from his point of view in this, I'm guessing. I don't want to speak for him. I'm not trying to do that. I'm just trying to what it appears to be to me, because I'm sure you're having the same sort of thoughts or questions here. But if without the integrations, then THORChain is probably nothing. maybe in some of the community's view, it's crypto is dead if it's not going to be able to be regulated, controlled. I don't know how you can, right, in some way. Like there's probably people that don't think the slippery slope is really that scary. Maybe this North Korea thing is just a one-off because they're nuclear, trying to build nuclear power sort of deal. So I don't really know, but that seems to be the two camps. This was obviously not very good news to see someone leave, especially from an outsider point of view. Lead dev is leaving THORChain kind of thing. So not a good headline. It's also not a good headline when you see THORChain laundering funds. So Lord Crypto, he has a different view than Pluto. He understands his moral standpoint about processing funds from the Bybit hack. Again, nobody wants to help, but everything is traceable, is sort of the caveat with all this. So he says, but given the nature of decentralization, I'm not sure he agrees, this person, Lord Crypto. So a vote was cast and validators agreed to process the transaction. So there's been like these nodes halted and then some nodes unhalted. And then I can't remember if it got halted again and then it was unhalted again. Regardless, it's just another day at the office. We don't want to create precedents that anytime something like this happens, we abandon first principles of decentralization. And I don't know at this point if decentralization is the thing as much as it is permissionlessness. So I think everyone thinks that THORChain is somewhat decentralized with the way the nodes have the ability to kind of do this and adopt different software. But the permissionless thing, at what point, I think, is what people are asking. If you start blocking addresses, it's kind of like freedom of speech. Freedom of speech is only important if you allow a person that you disagree with to say what they want to say as well. Freedom of speech for speech that you're okay with, anyone can do that. So I think it's somewhat similar here, where the idea is that if you have to allow transactions, especially if THORChain is supposed to be a neutral tool, regardless of whether or not you view that transaction as good or bad, because you don't necessarily know the intent of the funds. And is it I think the question is it THORChain's responsibility of all the actors in this? You've got the UIs, you've got THORChain, you've got the ETH base layer itself. Why is it falling on THORChain when THORChain does not obfuscate any funds? I think is sort of the argument where it's like, this doesn't seem fair to some of the communities. Like if the same pressure is going to be applied to Ethereum as THORChain, that doesn't make sense. And it's just kind of like right? Some people might say, I'm not speaking for myself with this, just, this is a funny educational video talking about laundering, because it seems to be that no one can define, and go give this person a follow also. Doesn't have that many follows, but this was a really funny video. The music, if you haven't seen this, the choice of music was like perfect. I literally was laughing out loud. Usually you LOL stuff, but I actually was laughing out loud. But he talks about the idea of laundering and that nothing is private on this. So I see like different definitions, different ways of thinking of this. So the way he points out here in this video is that an ETH swaps to Bitcoin, but then the Bitcoin address, and then THORChain's no longer involved. Why is THORChain being required to have any say of what these funds are or are not going to be used for? So you can still track the funds. You can still go after the criminals. They just swapped from ETH into THORChain, or ETH into Bitcoin or something, right? So no one seems to be able to agree on the definition of money laundering. If it doesn't privatize it, is it not money laundering? But if it does break the chain of custody, is that the point? Like, at what point in crypto do we decide, or do we call it laundering? I don't know. And maybe I should not say these words that often in this video, because I don't want to get like flagged or anything like that. But you get what I'm saying. No one seems to be, there's different ways you could look at it. Like if you were to think of a pawn shop, if there was a bank robbery and someone stole diamonds, and then they go to a pawn shop with those diamonds and they swap it for a car. The person gets away with the car, but they find out the diamonds are at the pawn shop. Is the pawn shop going to be able to keep those diamonds to sell at the pawn shop, and then the police just go chase after the car? Probably not in real life. And I don't know if that's necessarily the best analogy for crypto. I think that's what they might be saying, is that THORChain's the pawn shop. They dropped dirty ETH off at the pawn shop and left with dirty Bitcoin, right? The car is dirty because it was purchased with the diamonds and they're a thief or whatever in that car pawn shop example. But so what do you call, what's a good analogy for THORChain? I'm not sure. It seems that people can't, there's no agreement on what that word means. And that's another issue people are having, is because if you go into a liquidity pool and you're just hanging out in there passively with your assets, and then someone swaps stolen Ethereum in that pool and leaves with Bitcoin, well, now you don't know, is your Ethereum dirty or not? And if you go to a centralized exchange, are they going to flag you, ask you a bunch of questions, put you on a list? That kind of thing. I don't know. I think the answer is probably, I don't know. No idea on that one. But I think there's a little bit of concern about the innocence of people that are just adding passively and innocently to an LP, not thinking about the potential consequences. And I was also thinking, this North Korean hack isn't the only time there's illicit funds. Like crypto gets stolen a lot. So how do you continuously screen these addresses? And when does it become, what threshold does it become something that you censor, right? And whose job, again, who's to decide what you censor? And if it's authorities and you're running a node, then that's who decides, right? Because you don't want to go to jail. And if you're a dev, obviously you don't want to go to jail either. And that kind of another question you might ask is, well, then doesn't this just point to the devs and the nodes aren't anonymous enough? Because when I first discovered THORChain in like 2022, very early 2022, I thought all the nodes were anonymous and that you could not find them. They had, the bare metal nodes and they're running proxies, and it's like, sweet. So they're like basically undetectable. Is that true? I'm not entirely sure how anonymous a node can get. And as far as developers go, we saw what happened with Tornado Cash Guy. I think Alexei Pertsev, I think his name was. And then I think there was another person too. And can you contribute code anonymously? I don't know the answer to that either. I'd be curious if you guys actually know the answer to that. But if you are running a node on THORChain, you definitely don't want to be doxxed anymore at this point. You want to run anon nodes, right? If this moves forward, not censoring transactions, and you want to participate, then you want it to be as unshutdownable as possible, which is what I thought the vision mostly was like in 2022. And then I'm not sure where it may have started to change a little bit, but maybe with the integrations, and I don't know. But maybe this is just a wake-up call for participants. But again, like I don't participate, so I don't know the answers to these questions. I don't know the full answer. And I feel for all the participants involved. I'm personally not in it, and so I'm not judging any of the people that are actually have their neck on the line. I'm just curious at what can they do to make it so they don't have to worry. Because I think that's it. I don't think anyone, most of the people probably, the participants probably have the feeling of, let the transactions through. It's just a matter of personal risk. Because there's always going to be illicit funds. Like there's always bad people, whatever. It's always going to be a thing. It's just like with freedom of speech, just like cars on the highway, there's people that abuse or use stuff for not good reasons. And whose job is it to police that kind of activity? I don't know. JP chimed in. I recommended to all, he recommended to all his nodes to delegate and continue trading. So he's in the camp of let it ride, let it all go. Don't block anything. He said he checked the lists and none of the addresses have interacted with THORChain. He has not been served or aware of any node that has. He's going to support his nodes to run a static deny list. So I think the idea is that THORChain is being asked maybe to, and I'm not in the back end, so I don't know what conversations are being had. I don't know who's talked to who kind of thing. But if it's a third party, risk assessment sort of, solution that they're going to find, then THORChain is censoring transactions based on someone else's opinion of what transactions may or may not. It kind of goes against the ethos, I suppose, of THORChain's original vision, because obviously, right, a static OFAC list is never going to work because if stolen funds happen, they OFAC that address and then they send funds to a different address. To my understanding, that wouldn't be on the list. So it would just go through. It's very easy to just spin up a new wallet, as you know, and not be on this list. So then you're weighing, I think this is the whole question. You're just weighing it. What responsibility do you give to people to be the judger, to judge people's transactions, just like with speech, just like with a lot of things? That's the big question. So THORChain's going to have to decide, does a fork come out of this? I don't know exactly. I do not know. But this is good for Mary Cow, always building some cool tools. Obviously, he's got that rune.tools. Go check it out if you haven't. Tons of stuff on there to watch. But open source. So he built a tracker, right, to block transactions for the UIs, to be able to block transactions, I believe. It's open source, can easily make this more robust if someone wants it. Committed to building the tools to easily track bad actors in real time. Been working with all the teams nonstop. So I think the deal with this is, if you stop the UIs or help the UIs block addresses dynamically, which they can if they're centralized in like a trust wallet or some product that has a centralized backend, and they want to block these, they're like, I know that the chain is neutral, but I'm not going to be the one to send it through, right? The hackers can just go straight to the blockchain is the issue, I guess you could say, what everyone's kind of arguing about, right? But everything is trackable. It's not obfuscated or anything like that. So yeah, the judgment is who is the question. Because I saw this, right? The Ethereum Foundation launches the Silviculture Society, an external advisory group to uphold Ethereum's core values: open source, privacy, which THORChain does not have, security, THORChain has, and anti-censorship. So I just wonder. So I made a joke tweet about this. So this is a statement that Ethereum Foundation is pro-Lazarus group and assisting North Korea with funding its nuke. Obviously, that's not true, right? It's not true. So, but if Ethereum is not going to be held to the fire for privacy and for anti-censorship and privacy, which THORChain does not have, why does THORChain have to be held to some higher standard? I would love to hear your guys' thoughts on this, by the way. And also, what's up, Soda? Nice to see you in here. As always, one big family reunion for sure. Why TCB always post to Mac? Yeah, I don't want to get into different people's. I think there's a lot of emotional stuff going on with it, right? And especially if you're participating in the network, what's the, not talking about price in like a foam away, but what's the price right now? Like 130, 133 hanging in there. I wouldn't be surprised if a lot of these nodes are underwater. So some of them are acting probably in their best interest of, I need my bags to pump. And the ones that want to get out are probably I don't want to speculate like that. I don't know what anybody's going to do, right? But I wouldn't be surprised if there's some people underwater desperate to get not underwater by any means necessary, whatever they think is the best bet, and then do whatever they want to do from there. I don't know. But I just saw this, right? And again, why is this not an Ethereum Foundation issue to handle this? Why is this a THORChain issue? If Bitcoin doesn't have to censor, if Ethereum doesn't have to censor, why does THORChain have to censor when it's not obfuscating? Questions. I don't know. I do not know the answer. And also, yeah, hey, what's up, Digital Cash Network? Nice to see Dash in here. Or Joel, right? Yeah, and then this was kind of interesting too. So this account, go give a follow as well. And I shouted out the person that made that video, right? Yeah. Already sold _already sold. Go give them a follow. Funny. And then this person, the Feed Xavier. So they're funny. This is a funny one too. Our innovation department discover money laundering scheme for Lazarus. They buy enough Rune for 63 nodes, churn in THORChain, then swap ETH to Bitcoin and back. Just volume. Their nodes receive clean Rune as commissions. After that, swap commission Rune for Bitcoin. So you just take the Rune, swap it for Bitcoin, and sponsor a space program. I don't know. The price is low enough. If they got enough money, do they have a node in the system earning some commission? I mean, it'd be pretty low, right? on the volume that they're sending through. But, if they're trying to do, I mean, would they? I don't know. And I'm sure that he's joking, right? Our innovation department discovers money laundering scheme. And then he did say this, though. I told you, and this was just 28 minutes ago, new THORChain, and again, I'm not sure if this is a joke. I didn't go here and verify it myself, although I guess I could have just clicked on Infobot or something. But there is one in Seoul, and he says here, routing Pyongyang. And I just didn't have time. I pulled this up like right before the stream. Is Seoul, I don't know if it's in North Korea or South Korea, and where Pyongyang's at. I think there was a movie about North Korea, a funny one with like Seth Rogen in it or something like this. And I think Pyongyang is in North Korea. So I don't know. But is that happening? What do we think the odds of something like that actually happening is? What is the chance of that? Soda here says APY is crazy for nodes and bonds at the moment. Yeah, because of it. But it almost feels like, and this is what I mean. If you're just pro transaction, this is obviously a bit of a short-term potentially thing, these levels, right? It's probably going to reduce back down, fall down about maybe around here. It'd be cool to get back to 100 million daily. It was kind of low. It was probably around like 70 million a day, or 70 or so million a day on average, which I think is fine. Like if that happens and still build that foundation, you've got Ruggiero launching all these different potential catalysts. But the volume, it's like, how do you feel about the volume? It's good, but you don't want to extrapolate this recent volume in the last week out as if this is going to continue like this in the short term. Other things would have to happen. But yeah, it is wild. The APYs are very high if you are bonding for sure. So Oleg has I think he either put out a PR or he's working on a PR. And he said, I started something, but I received good feedback. It wasn't implemented at the correct layer. And this is, I believe, a screening tool. So he's, and I do think I remember Familiar Cow said it wouldn't be at Thor node, it would be at Bifrost. What does that mean? Not sure. But obviously, in Oleg was like, oh, okay. And so I think that's what he means. So a dev with much more experience with this stack is giving it a shot here. And I'm assuming that this, blocked addresses, right? So this would be the solution they're trying to do at the base layer for implementing some sort of screening system. And once it goes down this route, then it goes down this route. I don't know how difficult. Some people were talking about in the Discord that THORChain just needs to survive here, just to have people not have anybody on their backs. Just survive, let rune price recover, and maybe when things ossify, could remove it. I don't know how easy that would be able to do, because when you think about something like block rewards, for example, I remember asking about that. When it was like, how are we doing? We're removing block rewards. Why didn't we remove block rewards already? Everyone was saying, once liquidity fees equal 80% or 90% of the total rewards, block rewards, and then liquidity fees, then we'll look at turning off block rewards. But then we had THORFi happen, and suddenly they were able to turn off block rewards. So what happened with that? I think it's just once you put something in place, just like with governmental agencies and all this kind of stuff, they're really hard to change or reverse. So I just don't, like, I wouldn't be surprised if they put this in there, and then if they removed it, they would be charged with a crime of negligence or insert crime they want to charge with here type of thing. So in my, it doesn't matter. But once this goes in, I think some of the community might wonder how hard would it be to get this out. But I'm sure a lot of the community will be like, well, I don't want it to be out. Maybe a lot of people are okay with this, putting in screening. So that's some people's position, which is totally, that's fine. It is what it is. Just looking in at the nodes real quick. I want to see if any are churning out while that loads. Let's see. Bifrost. So John Ross, Bifrost is the bridging layer. This will prevent bridging into Thor ecosystem of flagged assets. Still censorship, right? And I just don't know the difference between why the Bifrost, the difference between Thor node and the Bifrost layer, But yeah, it would be screening just at where it would be appropriate, I suppose, appropriate to do the screening. So the nodes here, it doesn't look like, but I think a lot of it's going to come down to a vote and where this goes. Now there's a PR, like we said, I think, or it's going to be very shortly a proposal to screen addresses. And whichever way that goes, I think has the potential to be a big fork in the road. And I don't know what's going to happen. I'm not going to try to predict what's going to happen. Maybe nothing happens. But yeah, it could, we'll have to see. But right now, it looks like bond wars are still happening. You would have 4 more come in on the next churn, which would bring it up to 94. And there's only 2 asking to leave, but the 2 asking to leave both have bonders. They both have people bonding. So it could be that, they talk to the people that they're bonding with, and someone said, I want to get out of this. I'm not sure. So they got to churn out so that they can, unbond people. And it does look like with 800,000, right, in 688, if they do want to get back in, they'll be able to get in immediately on the next churn, unless somebody else comes in with a big bond and squeezes them out of that. But I don't know how last minute nodes might put in a request to leave either. So just because none are signaling at this point in time, there's still like 2 days left for the churn. Yeah. 1 day, 23 hours doesn't mean that some aren't either going to request last minute or more aren't going to be added here, depending on how this vote and the Oleg situation with screening addresses goes. So we'll have to see. Digital cash, block rewards weren't necessarily after all that revenue. Block rewards weren't necessarily after all that revenue. Subscribe, by the way. Yeah, thanks. Also, if you're watching this video, please do share it on Twitter or YouTube. Hit the like button so that more people can see the THORChain news and get exposure to THORChain, right, and what's going on. Block rewards, they weren't necessary because fees are nice. Oh, yeah. Yeah, exactly. 30 million last year. They weren't necessary, but that's what I mean. That was the question. If it wasn't necessary, then what took so long to get them out of there? So now there's a burn, which they kept in there, and there's no block rewards. And what took that so long is what I was saying, right? So if a screening tool goes in there, it's probably going to be hard to remove, just like you didn't need block rewards, but they kept them in there. Maybe you don't need to screen addresses. You can ossify, we can do things, it's built in such a way that it's unshutdownable. Everyone can be okay letting all the addresses through, but will they do it, right? If they're used to it. It's kind of like a habit thing. Maya raw dogged without inflation, but that's scary, risky, yeah. And they're still, I don't know how their volumes are. I looked at the coin price right before this. They're getting, well, it is what it is. So, and speaking of Maya protocol, this is 13 Heavens. This is the equivalent of 9 Realms for Maya protocol. So what? So if you're not following, they only have 71 follows. So go check out 13 Heavens _ if you're interested in the 9 Realms of Maya protocol for updates and stuff like this. Alex, put out a philosophical sort of tweet here. It was really long. Go and read that if you want to, about basically they're not going to censor over at Maya protocol. And if he gets ordered for some, he's somewhat doxxed. I'm summarizing here. He's somewhat doxxed. And if he has to step away from Maya protocol, he said what he'll probably do is just fully dox and then become a freedom of money speech, person like this, activist, just in real life. So they don't have any plans to do that. And 13 Heaven says here, they seem jacked about it. I think this is like one of those kind of sparks, depending on what side, where you're at in the system. This could be either an opportunity to put THORChain as the vision was back in the day, where it's unshutdownable, censorship resistant, doesn't, right, as neutral swapping base layer, or they can go the mass adoption. We screen addresses. We're super safe. We're going after the integrators, more volume, pump our bags kind of thing. And the other one could be pump your bags too. But, integrations and be more accepted by the regulatory type of framework. And we'll have to see which way this goes. But for certain parties, it's going to be a let's go moment, probably for all parties involved. So I thought this was pretty good for Maya Protocol. In the coming days and weeks, we'll be discussing ways to make Maya Protocol as unstoppable and censorship resistant as possible. More bare metal validators, light nodes, and alternative consensus mechanism even. Let's get our hands dirty and get to 1K validators. I wonder if some of THORChain's problem here is just that the nodes, there's not enough of them. Maybe they need to figure out some sort of way to increase this node. Maybe that's why they don't go after Ethereum, and why they're going after THORChain is because the nodes are so much smaller. Because even though you might have one operator that has like 5 nodes, so even though there's 90 nodes right now, it could be like 25 operators running all those. So 25, and the same goes for like Ethereum, right? People can run multiple nodes, this kind of thing. But if THORChain can increase those numbers, maybe that takes a little bit of like, listen, we're too decentralized. We can't change it. Like no one's voting to do it. Plausible sort of deniability, I suppose, maybe there. The future of Maya is bright, permissionless, and censorship resistant. So go and check this out. Well, I mean, we'll see what happens with everything, but just want to throw this in there. Shout out to 13 Heavens for that. So let's see. Yeah, they got decent volume. I wasn't trying to, like bash Maya by any means, but THORChain's seems to have like the relationships. And I know Maya Protocol has some different assets, but I think Radix was having trouble with like on some of the back end with the tech. You had Kuji, which on there for a period of time, and then obviously has been what happened with Kuji now turning into Rujira, right? So I feel like some of it is just also bad luck with some of these integrations. I think Zcash, right? Because that's another thing I wasn't even going to talk about on this. I didn't think to bring it up. But what happens when Maya Protocol has Zcash on there? What's going to happen there? That's supposedly, I think, very, very soon. I almost wonder if they're going to postpone putting Zcash on there to make sure that they get this in place. Like make sure that they're doing everything they can to not have to worry about that. Because then you'll be able to, there's people that argue that Zcash has the best privacy tech. It's just that they've got shielded versus unshielded. So it's kind of like a user risk is what people don't like. Whereas something like a Monero is private all the way through the stack, I think. So, but Zcash on its privacy side of things is supposedly, or I've heard, better than Monero. It's just that Monero has overall more privacy kind of deal. But with Zcash, what's going to happen if, NK, I'll just say NK, the LZ group, decides to swap that ETH into Zcash, shielded Zcash? What's going to happen in that case? I don't know. I do not know. That's going to be another can of worms. Then, I mean, when that happens, what's going on with THORChain is going to look maybe not that bad. It'll be like, well, on Maya Protocol, they don't have privacy coins, or on THORChain, they don't have privacy coins. It's completely transparent. But Maya Protocol, they're breaking the chain by allowing them to swap ETH into Zcash. So I do not know what's going to happen with any of this stuff, right? Like light the fireworks off kind of thing, get your popcorn ready. I'm just happy to be here kind of deal, right? Just rooting for everything in the vision. But again, I'm not judging any participants and and I don't think anybody should. If you're not participating and your neck's not on the line, I don't think it's necessarily fair, but to each their own or whatever. Sad to see Cacao getting dragged down like that. Yeah. Any idea what they will replace Kuji with for Cosmos Eco? Bro, Rujira is going to be the new Kujira for the Cosmos ecosystem, Bitcoin, all of it. In my opinion, yeah, you'll be able to connect any like the Cosmos to Rujira with Bitcoin. It'll be cross-chain, to my understanding. So that's there. That's what's great about Rujira. It's like Kujira on steroids, multi-chain. I've started doing all Dash marketing spends that don't take Dash directly through Maya Rails from here on out. Nice. Add in Zcash and things will be great. I can't wait to see what's going to happen. Zcash will have the best privacy in the space right now. We had a chat on my show on this channel today. Won't happen because they want liquidity. Who wants liquidity? Oh, they won't. Maybe you're saying they won't have the liquidity, Zcash, to move enough of the money. Lazarus, like if they could put $50,000 through a day, maybe they'll do that though. So does Zcash is pretty similar to THORChain in terms of what's happening. Both protocols use the unshielded side for sure. For sure. What's up, Brendan? Good to see you in here. Any wallet, any chain for sure. Yeah, and we did see that. I'm just trying to keep up with the chat. I do have a little bit more news here with some of the ecosystem stuff. But yeah, XMR. So JP did mention that in one of his tweets that let's not censorship stuff. And then he mentioned also adding XMR. But if it was that easy to add XMR, I don't think it's going to happen anytime soon. If it was that easy to do, right, it wouldn't be taking 20 years for Soraya to launch. No shade at you, Luke, who probably is not watching this, but Kayaba, giving you just joking there about the timeline. It does seem, it's been a while, but rooting for that, by the way. But, XMR, it's obviously, even if THORChain wanted to add it, it's probably going to be a while. It'd probably be a while, but we'll see. Wait, will Ruji be IBC? Am I crazy? Like, yes. Yeah. Dude, it's going to be IBC. Right? Am I crazy? Maybe I don't know. Maybe I thought so. Yeah, Bitcoin is the only chain with enough liquidity. Yeah. On my protocol. Yeah. For sure. We'll see. So let's get into some really quickly. Voltisig is officially going to launch. So this is on, right? It's a 100% fee switch token, which is awesome. 40% of revenue generated from plugins and AI marketplaces. The tokenomics look pretty good. I was talking about this earlier on a stream. It's like 75% is going to be unlocked. And then you'll have the team tokens, some of the airdrop, and some of the airdrop, and then this coin market cap accelerator that are going to be dripped out over time. And the team is 4-year vested too, which is pretty cool. But max tokens, 100 million. What else did I want to say quickly on this? Yeah, the airdrop, they're going to have seasons. So keep an eye out for that. Multiple airdrops and different ways to earn. Right now, you just have to have assets in the wallet, but soon they'll give multipliers for the trading volume. And if you're using some of the tools, to my understanding, yeah, the vesting schedule and the date. Where's the date? March 27th at 1 p.m. UTC. And I think when I looked this up earlier, that is like 8 in the morning if you're in the United States, Eastern time. So if you're over Pacific time, some people I know in the chat here for sure are, get up early, drink your coffee, right, so you can hit this first hour. One thing cool about this, I guess cool depending on whether or not you know how to use bots and sniper bots, but in the first hour, every whitelist is only going to be able to buy up to $1,000 worth of ETH. So even if the sniper bots snipe, they can only snipe $1,000 in that first hour. So you can come in 30 minutes late or 10 minutes late or whatever it is and put your slip wherever it is and then buy $1,000 worth as well. And then hour 2, sniper bots probably get unleashed again and they'll be able to buy $9,000 worth. And then we can just try, everyone can try to do their best to get in there as soon as possible. Should be interesting to see what happens with this, for sure. But nonetheless, it seems pretty good. And also, the private investors bought at 70 million FDV, and this starts at 3 million FDV, the launch. It'll probably get bid up, somewhat quickly, I would imagine. But once it goes public launch, if you're watching this and you're not on the whitelist, it's a 24-hour whitelist, but then there's a public launch. And if the FDV is lower than 70 million, so that would be a price less than 70 cents per Volt token. If you can get it below that, you're getting in earlier and cheaper than the early investors do. Not the whitelist, but the ones that provided the runway, right? And the funds that bought at 70 million FDV. You might be wondering, why would they buy at 70 million FDV? Because there was no cap. With the whitelist, you can only invest a certain amount. You've got to compete with other people, sniper bots, this kind of thing. If you bought at 70 million FDV, if you're a whale or rich or something like this, you could have bought like $200,000, $500,000 worth of the token at 70. So if you think that at public launch, it's never going to see 70 million FDV again, then it was good to do, But But if you never know, maybe on public launch, some early traders try to, in the whitelist, try to dump it. Maybe it drops below that. I'm just kind of, I don't know, right? I don't know what's going to happen, but it does seem pretty cool and right around the corner. So end of March 27th, put that on your calendar. Brennan says, Ruji is crack. Yes, in a good way, I'm sure you mean. Ruji definitely supports IBC transfers. Awesome. Thank you, Reed. You said Volt will be on Rujira. Did you mean natively merged eventually or just as bridge trade asset? Oh, in the live stream earlier. Yeah, so Volt is starting out. That's a good thing. It's going to launch on ETH mainnet, but JP in a spaces a couple days ago with Jane and Pal. Jane, awesome hosting that. By the way, JP mentioned it is going to merge to Rujira eventually after a few months, and then you'll be able to do all kinds of stuff with it. Loan against it. You're going to earn revenue, obviously, in USD cashback. So maybe you could stream that into Bitcoin, or with all the cool products being built, maybe participate automatically into the liquidations protocol, or have it streamed into Bitcoin and then doing something else. I don't know how much of it is going to be available like that on launch, but it's really, the composability is limited by your imagination, basically, is from what I could tell. Anything I've thought about, which is, I'm not that creative like that, they can do. So it's going to be mind blowing. I'm pretty pumped about that. Yeah, it'll be on ETH mainnet, the launch for sure. Some of the features will use Ruji. So that's some Voltisig news. Then we've got, I saw this from Thor Wallet. So Thor Wallet joins the CoinMarketCap Accelerator Program, which great for Thor Wallet. Also, the Thor Wallet APY seems so high that I wonder if they're one of the few UIs that are blocking, that are not blocking the NK people. I wonder if they're just letting them through on the user interface. Other user interfaces might be blocking, but Trust Wallet might be like, or Thor Wallet might just be like, we're totally 100% pro freedom to transact. Let it all through. And maybe that's why the APY is that high. I don't know. Maybe not. But shout out to Thor Wallet. Cool product, right? But I wanted to bring this up because also they joined the accelerator program, which is great. So what do you get with the accelerator program? Because if you don't remember, in the tokenomics, CoinMarketCap Accelerator for Voltisig itself. So I was like, okay, it's going to be CoinMarketCap banner ads. Like, what do you get with that? Who goes to Coin? What do you do at CoinMarketCap? You go there, you look at a price, you close tab, basically, unless you're using Dex Screener or CoinGecko, not using CoinMarketCap at all. But it looks like by joining the accelerator, Thor Wallet, and I'm assuming Voltisig as well, gains access to CoinMarketCap's vast industry network, strategic resources, and global crypto community. So ads, I would guess. Ads in places that you wouldn't think. Ads in places that you can't just reach by just paying them for banner ads or something like this is what I'm taking away from that. So shout out to Thor. I think Thor Wallet already has Voltisig tech in it. Voltisig is also a part of this accelerator as well. And Dorito Dex also is going to have Voltisig. I think I tried messing around with this earlier, and some of it, I had Control Wallet and Voltisig up, and I tried to connect both, and I'm not sure if one was overriding the other. I can't remember exactly how it went down, but I remember coming away thinking, okay, on Dorito Dex, you can still connect Voltisig. You can do that, but I think it only pulls in. I don't want to speak on that. I can't remember. EVMs, but I could be wrong. It might have just been the way I was doing it, messing with priorities on these two wallets and something like this. So you might be able to go and do Volti. I might experiment with that after this. And if you've done that, let me know. If you connect Volti Connect to Dorito, can you swap any of the assets that are available in the Voltisig wallet? I'm not sure. That might be a tutorial idea in the future. But yeah, shout out to this. And I bring this up because one concern that I hear about people with Voltisig is that, well, what if they stop developing it? Like private keys and seed phrases in particular, if this wallet goes down, I'll just upload the seed phrase to this wallet that uses also seed phrases. So it doesn't matter if the brands fail or whatever, because the standard is across multiple wallets. If you've got Dorito Dex that has, well, I don't know. Actually, they're using Volti Connect, so maybe this one doesn't help. But like Thor Wallet, if they have Voltisig built into it, then you can upload your Volt shares into Voltisig and make that work, I'm thinking. And I also heard Pal say, I think on the call, the space rather, that as long as you have the app on your phone, even if they don't develop it any further, it'll still work. As long as if it works when you download the app, it's not going to be broken. If you've got the secure, like just get a secure vault, get the 2 out of 3, no reliance on Volti server, right? Just your own 3 devices. It signs locally or with internet or whatever. And you're good. If it, right, worst case scenario, to my understanding, and because all you need to do, well, depending on if you're participating in DeFi, right, you might have to unstake or do some of these things. But if you just need to send out of there, then you might be okay. But I thought this was cool. More people integrating this Voltisig. Yeah, I saw JP give a snapshot. I don't have this up here of like what the AI plugin interface might look like. It's just going to be so cool. I think it looks pretty awesome. Let's see. What do we got? Why not just use Kuji Ruli Pilot to launch Volt then and bypass all bots chaos BS? I don't know. I don't know the answer to that. More liquidity is on mainnet. Yep. You can have a market on ETH launch on Kuji Ruji. Initial launch is whitelisted anyway. Yeah, you guys are, this is all too technical for me right now. What's the rush now anyway? Not like the funds I was going to use for Volt are in THORFi, are they? Oh no. Man, sorry. If that is the case, that's a bummer. Sorry to hear. They should have at least waited for TCY to be sorted out. I was going to use part of it is like, yeah, that's a bummer, man. I'm sorry to hear. That sucks. The timing of that is not the best. I know there's other people too that thought that some stuff was going to launch previous and they were going to use those funds to go into the next launch. And unfortunately, the timing just didn't work out. And that's just something that happens, I guess. But not happy to hear that THORFi was like that for you. But I think the rush, man, everyone's been waiting for this Volt token for months now, and it's still a month away. So it's like, do it, right? Get the stuff out there, get the token out there. Plus, it'll be easier to onboard Voltisig, I think, if there is a token, because you know how people like to do that. Like, oh, I'm going to use this wallet. Oh, if you could sell them the idea of a token and it's a wallet, they might be more inclined to participate because there might be more upside. Plus, if they're in a revenue share, if it's an awesome a cashback token on its own, then that might be what you some marketing for the actual wallet. You're like, people are like, oh man, this Voltisig, this Volt token earns 10% or 15% APY in cashbacks. And they're like, well, what is that token? Oh, it's a freaking multi-sig wallet. Here's a tutorial. This is what I would do. Here's a tutorial. And then we can get, it's just one avenue to attract people to the wallet, I suppose. But yeah, they need to get the token out there. But I do understand it's a bummer for people with some of the timing. Definitely a bummer. Other updates with Rujira, Cosmwasm, and THORChain. People waiting for the V3.3 update. It looks like with Pluto leaving, this is not going to impact that. So, which was just a question I had. So if you had that question, they already did. They delayed the merge until the 6th next week, and they did say they felt really confident in that. And it looks like it's going to happen. This right here, I wanted to highlight. They needed approval from 3 different teams, and last night, the 3rd vote was secured, officially green lighting it. So what is going to happen? We're moving into the final release process, which includes 3 critical steps: deployment on StageNet, testing on StageNet, which, I mean, this is all going to happen very fast because it's already the 28th, so they've got a week to do this. And then a vote by the nodes for the deployment of V3.3 on mainnet, which, nodes voting usually doesn't take like 2 seconds. It's usually like a day or something. Or, I mean, it probably depends on the vote, to be fair. But, I never really see a node vote. Like, people have lives, I guess, and they also need to talk to but this is one of those where, like, does a node need to talk to everyone that's bonded with them for this upgrade. I'm pretty sure every bonder is like, yeah, go, go. We want more money type thing. So maybe because they don't necessarily need to do that, this vote will go quicker and they can get it and the merge can happen on Friday. I think it's Friday. I thought it was the 6th. Maybe, no, it's Thursday. I know it's Thursday. For sure it is on Thursday. Yeah, and Brennan, good point. Likely the vote has already been talked about. So likely, good point. They've probably already said, hey, we're going to need you guys to vote at this time. So be ready to vote. And this is what we're voting on. Go talk to your people if you need to do that. So yeah, great point. So they'll probably be ready to go as soon as it's ready to be voted on. So that's good. 3-3 this week and the merge. And also just wanted to touch on this NAMI white paper. This is they're going to have a token in Ruggiero Network. If you didn't, if you aren't familiar with them, they released a white paper. It's like Savers on THORChain, except with a different design. It's like market based with lending and with stable pools, but not just stable coin stable pools, meaning the same asset like wrapped Bitcoin and CBBTC are just Bitcoin. They're just different wrapped versions in a pool. So if people are swapping those assets, that pool makes fees. And if you deposited Bitcoin into NAMI to deploy it, you said, hey, earn me some money, like give me money. Then they're going to go into these pools or deploy it in lending or something like this. But the key to that is sometimes if you put a native Bitcoin, depending on what assets Ruggiero has, you may not be able to deposit back out into native Bitcoin. So as long as there's no run on a particular asset, it should be fine, right? But that's the only sort of thing there is they have to have the asset for you to be able to withdraw. And so most of the time you're going to be totally fine. But there are circumstances where things could, it's not Savers with absolutely zero risk. There's risk mostly with withdraw potentially, but just look into that. But it's not like a runaway sort of deal, like to my understanding, right? So I don't want to blah, 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 maybe ignore half of what I just said there, but it looks pretty cool. Go check out their white paper. If you're interested in Savers, if you really liked THORChain Savers, at least go read this white paper. I also interviewed them about this white paper to see if it's something that you might want to participate in if you liked THORChain Savers, right? And sorry, Soda. Also, I know you just said you were in Savers on THORChain. So also, I thought this was great. So everyone, as far as I can tell, is thinking that Rugi Perps, used to be Lavana, is launching on Ruggiero. And me personally, I think some other people, Thor Trades, I see some people are like, well, if it's not going to be hyper liquid, then it's not going to do it. It's not going to be, it needs to be as great to use as hyper liquid. So I thought this was great. Mark from Denmark and JP even, right? JP's instructions to the Ruggiero team: build hyperliquid, but natively cross-chain and decentralized. Code Hans says, you betcha. I think Code Hans he's British. This sounds like something United States Minnesotans might say. You betcha. So I don't know. Is that a British thing too? Anyways, point being that it looks like people are calling out hyperliquid directly, which I want it to happen. Like a sort of like we're building hyper, not a, because they are the premier perps DEX. And so if you want to compete with them, you're going after them. That is who you're trying to dethrone, just decentralized, right? And better cross-chain, all this different kind of thing. And I know Hyperliquid as well is trying to build all these different dApps, and Ruggiero, I think, is probably going to beat them to that deployment. But we're just going to have to see about the UI, the UX, also liquidity on THORChain, right? The price of Rune needs to go up. We're going to have to see what happens with this whole NK thing that we just talked about for Ruggiero to even be able to work and have liquidity, to my understanding, but I don't know the exact, like, I don't know the numbers on any of that. Like if there's not, if X, then Ruggiero can't launch kind of thing. And I don't know that it can't launch as much as it can launch, but you just might be very limited on what you can do there. So I don't know. We'll have to see what happens with that. Soda says, node operators voting takes forever, especially on upgrades. Probably a week just for that. Nah, this one will be fast because everyone's looking forward to Ruggiero. You always get your collateral back. You just might have to pay slip on the savers. Well, Oh, for the swap then? You're saying because there's probably going to be a pool. And so yeah, if you're trying to pull out native Bitcoin, you put in native Bitcoin, you specifically want native Bitcoin, but native Bitcoin is the one that's low in the pool, then you're going to pay a high slip to extract in native Bitcoin. I'm imagining though that the ARBs, right? There's going to be bots arbing that and trying to keep those pools pretty even. I would guess. So right, I don't think it's going to end up where a pool would just sit with 1/8 of it in native Bitcoin, 2/8 of it in CBBTC, and 5/8 of it in wrapped Bitcoin. Like I would imagine that ARBs, and that's even if there's a 3-asset pool. Can that happen? I don't know. That'd be kind of cool. But I'd imagine the ARB bots would keep that even so that slippage remains low. But I don't know. Which is fair for exiting a 3-coin position Bitcoin. Right. It's implied that you are on different tokens, so the slip should be expected, right? It would be unprofitable for Nami to take the slippage fee hit, right? There's going to have to be. So we'll see. I mean, how they explain that to their users at Nami, but you're probably going to have some other UIs that have the savers as a option. And what will that UI show? Like if they're just like deposit Bitcoin, earn the current yield at the time, right? Because it's variable. There's no fixed yield. It's not Celsius or some centralized thing. Then I don't know. That's up to the UI, right? If the user ends up having an issue, I don't know. So hopefully they communicate that well, and there's maybe some way to, I don't know, but it's going to be up to the UI. Soda says, any idea what's the plan with synth tokens? Any redemption plan? I think most of the synths, mostly synths were used by the ARBs, and as soon as secured assets got made, there's a chart. I didn't find it. Go to thorcharts.org, I think it is, and thorchain.net. And I think there's one that shows that. Like as soon as like it shows the difference, synth, native, and secured. And as soon as secured hit, synth goes to like almost zero and secured springs up. So I think that's what everybody is using now, but there's probably a little bit. And if you have synths, like you're just holding synthetic Bitcoin in your wallet, I think that might have actually fallen under this TCY. They might have thrown that under the umbrella and said the synth just goes in with the savers and you're getting TCY, but I'm not 100%. 100%. Yeah, they moved. I have to catch up with what's happening with different X assets. Yeah, I'm not entirely sure. It's tough. The synths always confuse me. The secured assets, I somewhat understand them, I suppose, but I'm not a dev and I'm not super knowledgeable that deep with some of the tech stuff. Gotta get Chris on here. Sam Yap, come up here, talk about some of that stuff. And then I got one more tab. I just wanted to shout out Kenton and Patriot Sounds are going to be doing an event tomorrow at 9 a.m. So if you want to catch that, that's Pacific time in the United States. So 9 a.m. I believe. So I don't know what that is in UTC or anything like that, but they're going to have an open discussion, I guess, about should we censor, should we not censor? And I'm going to definitely try to hit this. And I think, whatever, I just want to put this on your radar. Go to Kenton's thing, set the reminder, try to catch that if you can. Probably going to be a lot of, back and forth about the risks, because that's just a lot of the thing too, is we don't, just as a normal person, just looking at it from the outside, I don't know who's been contacted by what agency, what the risks are necessarily. Like I said, if I went up there, if I was going to ask a question, I'd be like, is it possible for a dev to contribute code to THORChain completely anonymously? Is it possible for a node to run on THORChain completely anonymously? And if that's the case, then why aren't they doing that? I guess would be another question, but I don't know. We'll have to see. Okay, cool. Yeah. Reed, thank you. Kenton's space is 6 p.m. Europa, I guess Europe time, maybe in Europa. I mean, that's a pretty. Aren't there multiple time frames? This is the America in me. I'd imagine there'd be multiple time frames in Europe, just like in the United States. But maybe Europe is actually not as wide as I'm thinking. Maybe it's just one time zone, and that can't be. There's no right. There's no way. But maybe, I don't know. But anyway, thanks for that, Reed. Really appreciate. But that's it for the THORChain news. I appreciate everybody chatting. Please do share this video, hit the like so we can get some THORChain exposure. Yeah, and I hope you guys have an awesome weekend. See you on the next one.